Welcome back to the Buck Stops Here. Time now for our special on the Buck Stops Here this evening. Where do you draw the line between human rights and supporting extremist ideology? That's the debate that Amnesty International finds itself at the center of after one of its senior-most members, Gita Sahgal, was suspended for questioning Amnesty's policy on a prominent Taliban supporter.
53-year-old Indian-born Gita Sahgal, an international cause celebre fighting her own organization, one that she has worked with for a number of years. A human rights activist, a researcher of religious fundamentalism for 20 years, and daughter of a famous writer, Nentara Sahgal, she now finds herself in the media spotlight. Last month, Amnesty International suspended Gita, head of its gender unit, after she openly condemned the human rights body for using this man, Mozam Beg, a known sympathizer of the Taliban, as a defender of human rights. Beg, Gita says, is Britain's most famous supporter of the Taliban.
They've been very conscious or sensitive not to be very physically harmful towards the detainees. That doesn't mean that people haven't been physically tortured.
A former Guantanamo detainee and a terrorist suspect released without a charge in 2005, Beg started a charity called the CagePrisoners to highlight illegal detention and torture of victims of the West's war on terror. But Gita says there is a wealth of evidence available with Amnesty that shows Beg and his group support and propagate radical Islam. Beg has written about his admiration for jihadi groups and the Taliban. In his book, Enemy Combatant, Beg says the Taliban were better than anything Afghanistan has had in the past 25 years.
And Amnesty International says that they only use Mozam Beg in order to describe his experiences during the war on terror, during his incarceration in Guantanamo. Now, that for me is unproblematic, except that he's been used so frequently, and even when he's been introduced to somebody who's simply running a water project in Afghanistan. That alone sanitizes who he was and what he was doing in Afghanistan.
A look at CagePrisoners.com, described by Amnesty as a leading human rights body, shows they back Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the alleged mastermind of 9/11, Abu Hamza, the hook-handed cleric facing extradition from Britain to America on terror charges, and Abu Qatada, a preacher described as Osama bin Laden's European ambassador. Sahgal says she's not against defending Beg's human rights, but she objects to Amnesty turning a blind eye to his radical views.
They're wondering what we're doing, getting into bed with a fundamentalist. You know, it's a very dangerous situation for them.
Since her suspension, Amnesty has come under severe criticism. Famous authors such as Salman Rushdie and Amitav Ghosh have accused the rights body of moral bankruptcy. And then there are online campaigns on social networking sites and blogs with hundreds of supporters asking Amnesty to take Gita back. But Amnesty denies this.
She clearly sees that Amnesty are currently engaged in promoting a man who holds this very anti-liberal, anti-democratic, anti-Western, anti-women ideology, and she does not wish to see Amnesty help to promote it.
Any suggestion that our work with Mozam Beg has weakened our condemnation of abuses by the Taliban does not withstand scrutiny.
Amnesty International has more than 2 million members worldwide, including many celebrity supporters. This is the first time that someone has publicly raised concerns about the direction this human rights organization is taking, aligning itself with the Islamic right. Amnesty, on its part, has chosen to respond by suspending Gita Sahgal, but keeping its alliance with former terrorist suspect Mozam Beg and his organization CagePrisoners.
In a desperate attempt to shun the evils of the Bush era such as Guantanamo Bay, Has the liberal left gone too far by befriending the world of radical Islam? With Swati Maheshwari in London, Ambika Varma, NDTV.
A disturbing standoff that raises serious questions for human rights groups all across the world. Joining us now tonight live from London, our newsmaker, Gita Sahgal. Gita, thanks for your time tonight. At the heart of that debate is a very fundamental question for human rights groups everywhere. Are there certain principles that you uphold? For example, a campaign against Guantanamo Bay type establishments, no matter who the people are behind, prison bars or people who may be tortured, even if they are radical extremists?
I think the fundamental principle is upholding universal human rights. And that means that, of course, you must oppose Guantanamo and lack of fair trial, arbitrary detention, torture, and all those things. Those are fundamental principles that Amnesty campaigns for, and I have never opposed them. In fact, I've supported them both in my personal and my public capacity, but within and outside Amnesty. However, this is an issue of legitimation of groups who are for the destruction of human rights, and it is also a fundamental principle that we shouldn't support them in their views.
Gita, just to sort of buttress the point that you've been making, how much evidence empirically do you believe that there exists to show that the person in question, Mosam Beg in this case, is somebody who has very, very direct links with the Taliban?
I think there's a considerable amount of evidence, not just of links with the Taliban, but of people associated with what are known as Salafi jihadi networks. And Beg was in Afghanistan by his